Have you been going around the internet looking for your baseball podcast? Well, you've just found it. On the Dugout Report, we'll cover not only the latest news from across Major League Baseball, but we'll also analyze and break down the hottest games, players, stats, and takes from every aspect of the game, including from on the field, in the dugout and clubhouse, from the front office, and so much more. As longtime White Sox broadcaster Ken the Hawk Harrelson would say, sit back, relax, and strap it down. This is the Dugout Report podcast with Andrew Caruso. Hello everyone, and a very happy Sunday to you wherever you may be. This is episode 13 of the Dugout Report on this Sunday, August 28th, 2022. I am your host, Andrew Caruso, marking our last episode of the summer season. On this episode, I'll cover the latest news surrounding Braves outfielder Marcell Ozuna's arrest for DUI. Next, I'll cover the breaking news surrounding the Moreno family exploring a potential sale of the Angel organization after nearly 2 decades of ownership. After that, I'll give an overview of the 2023 regular season schedule, since it was released a few days ago. Next, after that, as has become routine on the show lately, I'll preview the top 3 series on the schedule for the upcoming week, and why I think you tune into those matchups. Lastly, to cap off the episode, I'll read your thoughts on your team's 2023 schedule that you sent in on Twitter. It's an action-packed show today. First off, I hope everybody is doing well. As I stated in the intro and hinted at last week, this is the last episode of the summer season. When this episode gets released on Sunday, I'll be on vacation in Florida, enjoying the last few days of my summer. Next week, September 4th, will mark the start of a brief hiatus as I transition to the school year. So that means there won't be any episodes for a few weeks. As I stated in the last episode, coming home from vacation on Thursday, recorded a very tight squeeze to get an episode out in time on Sunday, so I'll be taking that week off. I'll go back to school the Tuesday after Labor Day. So I'll be taking that week off from the show so I can focus on transitioning into the new school year. After those 2 weeks, I'll try my best to be as consistent as possible with content. But there may be some inconsistencies and some weeks without any content due to my busy schedule with school and other obligations, leaving little time for podcasting. As always, stay tuned to socials for any updates. Anyways, if you missed the last episode from last week, you can listen to that episode and previous editions of the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Also, I want to remind you can follow the show on Twitter at DugoutRepPod. That's Dugout, R-E-P, Pod. While you're at it, follow my personal Twitter feed and my Instagram page at AndrewCaruso77. Postings on Instagram are non-existent, so Twitter is the primary place to follow and connect with me as well as the show. So that's enough social media talk for one day, and we've got a lot to cover, so we can't waste any more time. And with that being said, let's head in the dugout to talk baseball. Leading off today's news coverage is a major piece of breaking news surrounding an all-star outfielder, as during the early morning hours of August 19th, Braves outfielder Marcell Ozuna was arrested for DUI. The arrest occurred at about 4:30 a.m., and he was booked into the Gwinnett County Jail and charged with failure to maintain lane in addition to the DUI. However, Ozuna was released on a $1,380 bond later that day, out of Atlanta's lineup that night versus Houston due to poor on-field performance for the 5th consecutive game. Video footage released online from the actual arrest showed Ozuna telling officers that he was a Braves player. He returned to the lineup on last Sunday on the 21st and had 2 at-bats, but he struck out both times, and he was greeted with loud boos every time he stepped up to the plate in that game. If you want more information about the case, you can go online and look up that info, but we don't have time to talk about it in great detail, and frankly, I don't want to go there and to get into all that. Anyways, following the arrest, the Braves released a statement that read in part, quote, "The Atlanta Braves are aware of Marcell Ozuna's arrest this morning and are still gathering all the facts pertaining to this incident. Our organization takes these matters very seriously, and we are obviously disappointed by the situation," end quote. Ozuna also released a short statement to the media prior to Sunday's game, which read, quote, "I disappointed my team. I disappointed my family. I don't have anything to say more. It's a legal matter," end quote. This was Ozuna's second arrest while with Atlanta. Last season, he was arrested for domestic violence and placed on administrative leave by MLB afterward, and eventually got suspended for 20 games, missing the Braves' World Championship run. It's unknown whether Ozuna will face another suspension for this arrest. Definitely another disappointing week in baseball, with Fernando Tatis Jr. getting suspended last week for PEDs and the Ozuna situation this week. And that's really all I have to say in terms of my reaction to this news. Let me know what you think of this news. And by the way, I covered the Tatis suspension last week, so listen to that episode if you want to hear my thoughts. Our second piece of news this week surrounds the ownership group in baseball, as last Monday, ESPN reported that Arte Moreno and family were beginning to explore a potential sale of the Los Angeles Angels organization, which they owned for nearly 2 decades. It's been reported that the Morenos will keep their options up and listening to bid for potential new ownership, and it's unclear when the sale will actually take place, as right now it's in the beginning phases. Arte Moreno released a statement on behalf of his family, which read, although this difficult decision was entirely our choice and deserved a great deal of thoughtful consideration, my family and I have ultimately come to the conclusion that now is the time. Through this process, we will continue to run the franchise in the best interest of our fans, employees, players, and business partners, end quote. He went on to say, quote, "It has been a great honor and privilege to own the Angels for the last 20 seasons," end quote. The Moreno years have been full of ups and downs in Anaheim. After purchasing the team from Disney and the Disney Company in 2003, the Halos won five division titles in 6 years from 2004 to 2009. During that stretch, they had stability in the dugout with Mike Scioscia as their manager, and in the front office with Bill Stoneman as general manager. They also signed big-name stars such as Vladimir Guerrero Sr., Bartolo Colon, Eric Ibar, and Jared Weaver, to name a few. But since the 2009 season, the Angels have been a subpar team, only making the playoffs twice. While they've signed other notable names like Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani to significant deals, they've lacked consistency in the management department, going through 4 GMs in 15 years since Stoneman's retirement in 2007. Some of their mega free agent signings eventually backfired, for example, Josh Hamilton and Anthony Rendon. They've also lacked consistent field management since Mike Scioscia's retirement in 2018, most recently with the firing of Joe Maddon in June of this year amid a poor stretch of on-field play. A plethora of legal troubles, plus declining attendance in recent years, has put a damper on the Moreno's ownership. So it's safe to say that based on the snapshot of information I just presented, this sale was going to come eventually, and it was definitely a surprise when the news broke. With the potential new owner coming in, ESPN reported that this may open the door for a potential Shohei Ohtani trade frenzy, either before the Morenos sell the team or shortly after the hypothetical new owner takes command. It would be very similar to how the Nationals handled the Juan Soto trade situation, and that ended up with Soto getting traded to San Diego. If it weren't for his no-trade clause in his lucrative contract, Mike Trout would have potentially gone on the open market. But even if that weren't the case, I wouldn't have seen him going anywhere else because he's been successful in Anaheim and he spent his whole career there. He's a franchise player. Let me know what you think about this surprising news, and do you agree with my thoughts? Again, let me know. Next up is our third topic for today's episode, talking about next season, and this is the last news topic. Today's episode is talking about next season, as this past Wednesday, MLB released the 2023 regular season schedule. The season will kick off on Thursday, March 30th, and barring any weather-related issues or other delays, all 30 clubs will play that day. All teams will also play on Jackie Robinson Day, April 15th, Lou Gehrig Day, June 2nd, Independence Day on July 4th, and Roberto Clemente Day on September 15, with the Pirates hosting the Yankees at PNC Park. The regular season will conclude on Sunday, October 1st, and the 93rd MLB All-Star Game will be held Tuesday, July 11th in Seattle. Other important dates to note is the second ever MLB London Series, which will be played between the Cubs and Cardinals at London Stadium on June 24th and 25th as part of MLB efforts to bring games to various locations abroad over the next 5 years. Lastly, the 2023 Little League Classic at historic Bowman Field in Williamsport, Pennsylvania will be played on Sunday, August 20th between the Nationals and the Philadelphia Phillies. We'll get a chance to dive into individual team schedules during the social media segment, which is coming up in a little while. Also, with the release of the schedule comes big news, as starting this year, and thanks to the new collective bargaining agreement ratified in March after the 99-day lockout, a team will face the other 29 clubs at least once. There are 3 interleague matchups on opening day, for example, including the Yankees playing the San Francisco Giants. The main reason for this shift is to create a more balanced schedule is to allow for a more level playing field with consistent matchups with opponents while moving away from divisional heavy schedule, which as MLB expanded the playoffs to have 12 teams starting this year and going forward. So basically this new schedule will hopefully help even out the wild card races. A statement released by Chris Marinak, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, Chris Marinak, MLB's Chief Operations and Strategy Officer, read in part, quote, "Additionally, this fan-friendly format provides fans with the opportunity to see more opponent matchups, with a particular focus on dramatically expanding our most exciting interleague matchups and offer a national fair exposure to the star players throughout our game." Quote, end quote. If you want all the details about how the new schedule breaks down in terms of how many games will they play with the divisional opponents and interleague opponents and intra-league opponents, you can read the press release from MLB on their website. I think the big kicker with the new schedule is that every team will play all divisions in the opposite league. For example, Yankee fans, which are in the AL East, will get to see Juan Soto of the West, Bryce Harper of the East, and Nolan Arenado of the Central Division in the National League, just to name a few. It will definitely be an adjustment for fans and teams, but also it may make rescheduling postponed games more difficult due to the wider spread of opponents or potential travel difficulties. Imagine an East Coast team having to go out west for one makeup game, or vice versa. So that's the downside to this new format. Let me know what you think. And again, stay tuned for the social media segment to hear thoughts on specific team schedules. We're now going to preview the top 3 series in baseball for the upcoming week of August 29th. That's coming up, so don't go away. Welcome back. Our last major topic of this episode is previewing the top 3 series for next week, August 29th to September 4th. I'll tell you a little bit about the teams involved and why you should tune into that series. Let's go. The first major series of the upcoming week is an interleague series between the Cubs and Blue Jays, kicking off on Monday night in Toronto. While this series is a high-stakes one, as both teams hold third place in their respective divisions, the AL East and the NL Central, interleague series are always interesting because it gives both teams and fan bases a chance to see players that they wouldn't see normally. Also, both teams have solid all-star players. For the Cubbies, you've got Ant Happ, Wilson Contreras, and Marcus Drummond, to name a few. And for the Jays, you've got Vlad Guerrero Jr., rookie Alejandro Kirk, Alek Manoah, and George Springer. Again, to name a few. In this 3-game set, I've got Toronto winning it 2 games to 1. The second must-watch series is a potential NL postseason matchup between the Dodgers and Mets starting on Tuesday night in Queens. Both teams hold the top spot in their respective divisions. As I said, this could very well be a potential NLDS matchup come October. Not to mention that both teams have a number of All-Stars. For the Dodgers, you've got Mookie Betts, Trey Turner, Clayton Kershaw, and Freddie Freeman. And for the Mets, you've got Max Scherzer, Jacob deGrom, Pete Alonso, and Francisco Lindor. Again, to name a few. In this 3-game set, I say the boys in blue take it 2 games to 1. The third and final series to watch this week is a weekend series between the Mariners and Cleveland Guardians commencing on Friday night in Cleveland. Again, another possible postseason matchup. Cleveland holds first place in the AL Central, and the M's hold second place in the West. So this could very well end up being a ALDS matchup come October if Seattle makes it past the wild card round. Not to mention both teams have a few standout players. For Cleveland, you've got Shane Bieber, Emmanuel Clase, and Jose Ramirez. For Seattle, you've got hot rookie phenom Julio Rodriguez and all-star Ty France, as well as pitchers Robbie Ray and deadline acquisition Luis Castillo. And I covered the Castillo in an episode a few weeks back. In this 3-game set, I have Cleveland taking it 2 games to 1. It'll be interesting to see how all the series I've listed this week play out. Do you agree with my selections? Are there any others that I missed that you think I should be talked about more? Let me know. We're getting close to the end of the episode, but the social media segment is coming up. So don't go away. Stay tuned. Welcome back. To cap off this week, it's time for the social media segment. Now, as I stated at the beginning of the episode, this week I asked you to send in your thoughts on your team's regular season schedule for 2023, letting me know what matchups you're looking forward to and any other tidbits of information. This should be an interesting segment, so let's dive in. And unfortunately, like it's been the pattern for the last few weeks, and honestly I don't know what's up, we didn't get any replies this week. So I'm going to just give you my thoughts on the Yankees schedule. So, first off, in addition to facing the usual AL suspects, the East, I find it interesting that we're opening the year versus the Giants. I think that's going to be an interesting matchup, and, we're considering we're facing the Central, also facing the rest of the East in addition to the Mets, the Phillies, all of those guys, the Braves, the Marlins, those guys, the Mets. Those 5 guys, those teams. It'll definitely be interesting. And also in the West, which the West we haven't faced. Like I said, we haven't faced the West division in about 3 or 4 years. So definitely again, getting to see Juan Soto and Manny Machado and hopefully Fernando Tatis Jr. will definitely be interesting when we play the Padres. And when we go out to LA, that's going to be scary. I mean, look at the Yankees star players and look at the Dodgers star player. That is, ideal. But definitely, like I said in the segment about the schedule, I think this schedule will provide more chances, provide Yankee fans who don't live in the New York area or don't live along the East Coast, or they don't live, if a Yankee fan, we'll just pick a random destination, if they live in, Alabama. I know somebody who lives in Alabama, so they're going to go to see the Braves when the Yankees play the Braves. So I think this interleague schedule will allow teams teams that don't play within their geographical area to go see their team on the road. And definitely I'm looking forward to visiting some other different road stadiums this year. I have my eyes on Chicago and a couple other places. So, just it'll, like I said, it'll be an interesting shift to see what what this next year brings. Everyone mark your calendar for March 30th. So, sorry that we didn't get any to read replies. If you missed out on participating this week, make sure you follow the show on social media so you can participate next time. We sadly reached the end of the episode, but closing remarks are coming right up, so keep listening and don't go away. Stay tuned. So that concludes the end of episode 13 of the Dugout Report. Thanks again for listening, and I hope you enjoyed the episode. Once again, as a reminder, you can follow this show on Twitter at DugoutRepPod and my personal Twitter page and Instagram feed at AndyCaruso77. You can find the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Please share this episode with your friends and on social media. That's it for this week, and so this is your host, Andrew Caruso, signing off. I'll see you in a few weeks. Thanks for listening, and so long, everybody.